Happy Halloween, everyone! Well, it's that time. We've come to the end of our 31 Nights of Horror. We've had a few actually a lot of late ones this year, but I have to say this is probably the best 31 Nights that we've had in a while. First, for starters, we've reviewed a lot of recent films that have come out this year. Second, a lot of my views have, reached a maximum of 100 views within sometimes within a couple hours, which is what really impressed me. We've had our first top 5 list in a long while, and for the first time ever, we've had our first video game review, not only for 31 Nights, but for this channel overall. Not only that, but we've had 2 game reviews for this round. So, anyway, I thought we'd celebrate tonight's 31 Nights with the review on Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers is a 1988 horror slasher film directed by Dwight H. Little. It stars Donald Pleasence, Ellie Cornell, Danielle Harris in her film debut, and Tom Morga, among others. Anyway, let's go right ahead. The premise of this film centers on Jamie Lloyd, played by Danielle Harris, celebrating the Halloween season with her foster sister Rachel, played by Cornell, in an attempt to help her keep her mind off her mother who died in a car accident. Oh, by the way, this film follows a much more different storyline than the David Gordon Green trilogy. So her mother happens to have been Laurie Strode. Anyway, Michael Myers, by some fucking miracle, somehow manages to survive both being shot in the chest and survive both being burned alive. How the hell does that happen? It confused me at first, but then I figured that this is someone who has supernatural abilities beyond our comprehension, so as long as his spirit exists, so shall he. Anyway, upon learning that Laurie's daughter lives in Haddonfield, he stops by the all-too-familiar town to pay his niece a sinister visit. Despite the slight confusion that surrounds the beginning, hell, Michael doesn't even look like he was in a fire. I was pleasantly surprised at how well the sequel is executed. This is a story that I believe took all the good elements from the first film, from keeping Myers obscure in the shadows most of the time, right down to the tension-building music, and just expanded on them. For starters, Myers is a much bigger threat in this film. I mean, this is a film where a fucking child is being targeted by Michael, something we hadn't seen in the films prior to this. Just that alone increases the intensity of the entire story, given that it serves as a very harsh reminder that no one is safe from the murderous wrath of Myers, and Michael is very persistent. He literally spends the entire film tracking down his niece no matter what or who gets in his way. You really could almost feel the vulnerability Jamie had, since you realize that this is a child who is scared out of her mind, which ultimately makes you realize her danger, given that she's dealing with someone who will stop at nothing to make sure she is dead. Another thing I really like about the story is just how fleshed out these characters truly were. There's so much that they add to Jamie's characters that she almost begins to feel very real in some areas. And as you begin to grow to adore her character, you start to really fear for her because of how much the story makes you care for her. I also love the way her relationship with her foster sister is developed, since that sibling chemistry isn't very strong for obvious reasons at first, but it slowly grows over time, especially when they realize Michael is after them and they need each other more than ever because of it. I give premise a B+. There were definitely a lot of risks taken with this movie compared to the other films, especially with the fact that a child is being targeted in the way these characters are demonstrated is probably some of the best character development I've seen in a slasher film in a while. I was 100% invested the whole time. Next is acting. This is probably the greatest I've seen in a Halloween film. One I definitely have to give kudos to is Danielle Harris, because her portrayal of her character just felt so genuine in a lot of areas, and just made you really feel for her because of it. The terror and sorrow she exhibits throughout this film just makes you feel horrible for her, and I definitely think it's because of the fact that Danielle Harris gives it her all. Hell, there's even some moments where she breaks down crying. I just want to scoop her up in my arms and tell her it's all going to be okay. That's how phenomenal her performance truly was. I also have to give credit for the way she and Ellie Cornell played it off each other, because it kind of makes sense for these two not to have, much chemistry at first, especially given that they aren't blood and probably haven't known each other for very long. However, the bond that they show toward each other, as well as the way they play off each other, slowly starts to build almost this same kind of chemistry you get with siblings. I give acting an A+. Definitely one of the main highlights of the film, aside from the tension. Finally, directing. Dwight did a fairly good job contributing to the Halloween franchise, since he didn't stray too far from the serious regular formula. He doesn't try to send Michael to space or hell or anywhere insane. He stays true to the spirit of the franchise by not being too over the top in terms of gore, and also having the music and the suspense play off each other so that they end up increasing the overall dread that's in this movie. Also, the fact that Myers is going after a child in this film is probably the scariest aspects of it, and Dwight definitely knew this because a lot of the film is from Jamie's perspective, so that really helps to hammer in the fact, just how screwy she truly is, especially when she encounters Michael for the first time. I give directing a B+. Overall, while Halloween 4 might be a bit confusing in some areas, it isn't really established that Michael and Laurie are related in the ones prior, which is what is confusing me, unless I'm forgetting something. But aside from that, this was a genuinely intense film that truly had me rooting for the characters and hoping they survive. This is probably the most fleshed out cast I've seen in a slasher film. I give this film a B+. It definitely kept my interest the entire time. Thank you for watching. Here's to another round. 6th year. More than half a decade. Wow. 6 years. It's really been that long. But anyway, have a scary night. Happy Halloween. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like and sub for more content.